are not dying because of men. They are dying because of the lack of education to the people. Due to the lack of education that our country presents, we can observe the conduct of a lot of men mistreating women. That are the base of our society. In comparison to European countries, where the numbers are drastically lower, we can see that in their system, their education, it's different. But what do they do differently? The SIJ, which is an organization that concentrates geographically tests, tell us that, for example, in a country like Germany, only the 32% of the mothers are single. But not just that. The government gives them 1,800 euros yearly to maintain their child, where in Mexico, almost 45% of women are single. And the government doesn't take care of anything economically. Speaking now, what does this has to do with education? Well, in places like Spain and Germany, there are several programs which help women. For example, in 2016, the Ministry of Family and Youth of Germany opened a special telephone line to help women 24 hours against all of these things and all of the violent crimes against them. But since 2016, not only that program was opened, but also a program that teaches girls and boys in the schools how to take care of themselves. This was ordered for all the schools in Germany by the order of Angela Merkel. With this, since 2016, the violent crimes against women in Germany had downgraded 12% in charts of the UN. Now, you're going to say, okay, but that's complex. I can't convince the government to arrange anything. And here comes a very important part that almost all of us don't see. Education, it's not just at school. It's actually the most important part of education. It's done at home. What would you say if I told you that probably you're part of the machismo? Well, probably you're going to tell me that I'm crazy. But in the house, it's where machismo grows, where it's more difficult to correct, because we did not even know that this happens in our house. It's quite funny, because with things like you teaching your son that, well, the mother needs to cook and the father needs to work, or that men don't do all the kinds of chores that involve cleaning, but they do all the kinds of chores that involve strength and things like that. Well, you're miseducating your child. Do not get me wrong. Not because you're a woman and you cook, that means you're part of the machismo. Well, but it's the way we teach it and we show it. That's where the problem comes up. Because if you tell your children that dad is at work because he wants us to have a good life, you're slowly teaching him that that's the way a house works. And of course, it's not always going to work that way. I was raised mainly by my mother and my grandmother. Both of them taught me that there were things that were destined for men and there were things destined for women. And you're going to say, didn't you just say that this is bad? Well, there are certain things that were taught to me that are different in this type. For example, my mother taught me, if you want to punch a man, go ahead, punch him. He'll probably punch you back. But if you touch a woman, I will punch you. Because these are things that are for men and for women. Not the things that you do in the house, that you do in your daily life, no, but these kind of things. With things like this, my mother taught me that there is of course things that are only for men and for women, but she never taught me that there were roles, as I told you. My mom worked, my dad worked, they both maintained the house. And well, sometimes my mom did the chores, sometimes my dad did the chores, and this is the kind of things that do involve roles that are wrong if we teach it. We need to change this because we cannot be showing this to our children. They will catch a different sense if we teach them correctly what is made for women and for men. And with this, we can achieve equity. And when we teach them that the equity is important for everyone, well, we will finally change our world. Thanks for listening.
Your Excellencies, UN Secretary General, President of the General Assembly, Executive Director of UN Women, and distinguished guests. Today, we are launching a campaign called He for She. I am reaching out to you because we need your help. We want to end gender inequality, and to do this, we need everyone involved. This is the first campaign of its kind at the UN. We want to try and galvanize as many men and boys as possible to be advocates for change. And we don't just want to talk about it. We want to try and make sure that it's tangible. I was appointed as Goodwill Ambassador for UN Women 6 months ago. And the more I've spoken about feminism, the more I have realized that fighting for women's rights has too often become synonymous with man-hating. If there is one thing I know for certain, it is that this has to stop. For the record, feminism, by definition, is the belief that men and women should have equal rights and opportunities. It is the theory of the political, economic, and social equality of the sexes. I started questioning gender-based assumptions a long time ago. When I was 8, I was confused being called bossy because I wanted to direct the plays that we would put on for our parents, but the boys were not. When at 14, I started to be sexualized by certain elements of the media. When at 15, my girlfriends started dropping out of their beloved sports teams because they didn't want to appear muscly. When at 18, my male friends were unable to express their feelings. I decided that I was a feminist, and this seemed uncomplicated to me. But my recent research has shown me that feminism has become an unpopular word.